I am currently in Seyðisfjörður. I'm at a campsite and there's a huge RV driving past me for, I think, the third time. I didn't manage to record this episode before I went on a road trip, a second road trip of my summer, which I'm very, very happy about. So here I am at a campsite recording it. Behind me you can see our beautiful installation of a waterfall. It's some plastic that we used to cover our shoes at night, but then I hanged it there on a tree, on a birch tree, to dry, and I've just decided that I set up this camera here and I just decided that it looks like a waterfall when it's blurred enough. So here I am naming it our waterfall installation. Do with that what you will. So yeah, let me look at my notes, and because today, my setup is not the usual setup, so I have a freshly decorated new sketchbook. There is you cannot see. There's a photo of rocks and a small tiny little flower. There's a stamp from Reykjavik. There's a spiral, which I find quite significant in my personal practice. Maybe I can talk about it in one of the videos. And there's a photo of a Marimekko bathrobe, which is a symbol of success for me. Symbol of joy and symbol of success, symbol of a good summer and of good Finnish design, which I want to talk about in this episode as well. So a few weeks ago, I watched a film with a friend. It's a documentary film called Sans Soleil. They describe it as an early travelogue. I think the word travelogue is very internet dated. It's like basically a travel vlog, what could be considered a travel vlog, an artistic travel vlog in the current internet YouTube terms. It was kind of like an honest collage of ordinary moments put together in a beautiful way. And there's an essay. I think there's a woman reading letters in it, letters from the writer or the author of the film, if I'm not mistaken. And at one point it refers to a passage by a Japanese writer about compiling lists of arbitrary things, such as things that quicken the heart. And that phrase really moved something in me, because this is what I'm desperately trying to capture and share basically all my life. Every art project, everything I'm doing is just things that quicken the heart. And for me, list of things that quicken the heart. And so that's why I wanted to start this episode with that analogy, with that in mind. I want you to go into the episode, into everything I do with that in mind. So yeah, if it's your first time watching, my name is Nika and I'm an artist living in Iceland. This is the 6th episode of my series Wonder Club, where I share moments from everyday life that I find inspiring, that I find worth sharing. This is my list of things that quicken the heart. And I do it in hopes to inspire other people, in hopes to connect and to kind of organize my thoughts and organize my interests and give them a space outside of myself without the pressure of having to fulfill every one of my interests or every one of without the pressure of having to do more with it than share with other people, and feel like I'm finding a proper place on the list for it, at least. And let's go to number one. The number one on my list for this month is the Nordic summer. I've talked about this in my previous episodes, and this year I made the effort to really have that experience. So in the first part of my summer break, I went to Sweden on the road trip with my flatmate, with my friend, and we visited some cottages. We rented a car and went around a bit. It was a beautiful experience. It was everything I wanted. I love the weather in the Nordics in the summer, and the berries, the lakes, the sauna, the whole experience. It just makes me so happy. Makes me feel very at home. And right now I'm on a second road trip of my summer, which is here in Iceland. We're doing the wraparound. We're doing the road number 1, and I'm currently in the East Fjords, which I'm finding out is a perfect place. A strong contender to Finland and Sweden and Norway for me. So another thing about the Nordic summer, it brings me back to almost more than 10 years ago when I went on my first Erasmus exchange, and that was in Finland, in Rovaniemi, on the Arctic Circle. And that's also when I learned about Finnish design. I learned it in our university courses, and I got introduced to the brand Marimekko. I knew about it visually a little bit, but I was not aware about the history and just the identity of the brand. I also learned about objects like Airam or the Aalto bow, which they just stayed in my heart since then, and they're kind of like these statues of success. That's kind of what I see it. Like if I live somewhere comfortably enough where I can acquire these items, because they're items that they last for a lifetime. People have those. It's kind of like family heirlooms even. Like those like the Kanken bag and Kanken jackets. I think they belong in that category. In Iceland, that would be 66 North. But back to Finnish design, I really want to shine a light on Marimekko, as I was able to purchase this year lovely set of bathrobe and 2 face towels, and I was so happy about it. They featured their most famous design, the UNIKKO flower, and the flower celebrated I think 60 years since it was released or designed. Their prints were quite geometric, but there was one designer who went against it anyway, and she designed the poppy flower, and that turned out to be, against the brand manifesto, because the brand manifesto was saying that it was mentioning no imitating of nature, because nature is already perfect as it is, so everything would just be a disgrace, dishonesty or failure of depicting it. And this designer decided to render a poppy flower, and now this poppy flower, the UNIKKO flower, is the most recognizable visual sign of Marimekko. So I found that really cool, and I really like what that represents, and that symbol, and just that design, and is great. And I feel like Marimekko brand has something really special about them, and I came across their early campaigns, and I really like how they showcase the use of their fabrics. Initially, they were designing fabric prints, and then they started making shows showcasing how to use those fabrics. And there's dresses, there's the popular clothing, but there's also a tent made out of the fabric, which I really loved, and other household items. I just really wanted to share with you these images that I found. And I guess at the end of this wonder number 1, I wanted to quote Armi Ratia, which is the co-founder of Marimekko. She says in this interview, "Our way maybe is very serious, but at the same time laughing. Can you understand that?" I will just leave you with that. I really like how that comes across as a closing statement to why I love Marimekko. Now I've come a little bit closer to the camera, because the number 2, the wonder number 2, is scents. And I mean scent as in the smell, scent, like the scents that you can smell. So I noticed that kind of a good thing about being a sensitive person, or having your general sensitivity level quite raised above the average, could produce an interesting effect. So in the same way that something very small like a broken nail can really make you feel super overstimulated, or some loud sound or anything like that, the same way I found that having a perfect scent around me, like a perfect perfume that I enjoy, or like a forest smell, something that can be with me, can uplift my mood so much and can make me feel so calm. And I feel like I'm really receptive to aromatherapy as well. Like I mentioned last time, I think 2 episodes ago, I mentioned some essential oils. This time I would like to mention, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Fischersund oils. They smell like, this one smells like a wet forest, and these scents actually do stay, they linger on your skin. I really like that about perfumes. And this store is a family business of an artist and a musician named Beyoncé, who is also singing in the part of the band Sigur Rós, and that's the band I mentioned in my last episode. So we were visiting his exhibition in Reykjavik, and then 1 street later there's the store of his family, and I think he's part of it, obviously. They designed scents, and they've designed scents before for concert tour. They did one, I think they did 2 for the exhibition, and just the experience of the store is magical on its own. The person working there that we've encountered was an absolutely magical being, and to each scent there's a poem attached, and these poems really bring you in nicely to the atmosphere of the perfume. In the store there were people curious about the scents, and he kind of performed a guided experience for them where they closed their eyes, he sprayed the scent, and then recited the poem. And we decided to try out their scent bar. So there's like a bar of all the scents that they had, and you pick 3 in a tin, and collect the corresponding poems. Yeah, and you can have a beautiful experience doing that. Another scent that captured my heart this summer was this tiny little shower gel that I picked up in Sweden, in Gothenburg. It smelled like if orange was a forest, if orange was a pine forest, maybe. And just having a shower, like a post-sauna shower with that tiny, beautiful orange forest smelling scent. The moment that technology will bring smell into transfer, it is over for you guys. It is over for you guys then. But yeah, that's just the two things I found important to include in this list. Oh, it's just starting to rain again, and it's getting quite windy. All right, wonder number 3. One of my interests that I recently gave more time to is herbalism, and I had the luck of participating in an Icelandic herbal walk that there was this lady who was very knowledgeable. She has an herbalism degree. She studied in the UK, and she is from Iceland. And she took us on a walk around this lake and showed us the herbs that you can collect there and what they do. Kind of briefly gave us a story. I found it to be incredibly first of all, entertaining, but just very joyful and informative. I also knew about some of the herbs before, because I have a book about Icelandic herbs, and I wanted to get into it more. But I feel like after this walk, being with someone who practices this in person, I felt like after we took that 1 hour walk, maybe it was like 1.5 hours, like I have a new filter through my eyes. I know what parts you can eat, what you can eat it for. There's surprisingly many more things than I expected. For example, spruce sprouts. She said they have the most vitamin C in Iceland. And they're quite delicious. You can add them to salads, for example. I finally know how to collect and where to, I know how it looks like for sure, Arctic thyme, and I'm really excited about collecting more during this road trip and drying them out. I bought a drying basket in a thrift store a year ago and I can finally use it. So yeah, I just wanted to share a moment of appreciation for investing in one of my interests in a local way, and I feel legitimately, I feel actually like I have a new filter in my brain through my eyes, and I love when that happens. It feels like such a tangible switch in your perception towards something that interests you. So yeah, that's my wonder number 3. And for wonder number 4, there's a artist named Steinunn Thorarinsdottir. Bear with my pronunciation, please. She's a sculptor in Iceland. She's an Icelandic sculptor. She's quite known, and I was quite ignorant to her art until I decided to take interest in one sculpture that's near, that's in the Ratia Peninsula, and it's this one that you can see on the screen. It's a man and a wave. You can interpret it as a man against nature and men in front, or confronting nature or the sea. And I find it really beautiful because she works with steel, and in this one, this is quite an old sculpture. It's from the 80s, if I have it correctly written down here. So the two pieces of the sculpture are made from different steel. The wave part is made from stainless steel, so it will remain intact and shiny. And the human part is made from a different type of steel. I think it's called tin steel. I'm not sure. And that one will rust and deteriorate with time, which it already is doing. And I found that to be really a beautiful metaphor or beautiful synthesis of man against nature, of man's littleness in nature, and how, yes, we do destroy it, we do cause harm to nature, but if nature really wanted, we would be gone, and we're part of it, but we're also such small part of it. I found that sculpture to be really grounding in that sense. And yeah, with that in mind, I would like to encourage you to explore one sculpture in your area. Oh my gosh, there's a huge van backing up into my car, but it's within a safe distance, but it just looked a bit dramatic with the van backing up right into my windshield and the wind and the rain and everything. Okay, so that was wonder number 4. I'm just looking at my notes here, and the last sentence I have written about this sculpture just says, in caps lock, "The sea will outlive us." So, on that note, wonder number 5. And this one, there is not so much notes about it. It's just a phrase that I found to be kindly thought-provoking. I came across this phrase in a vlog by Hitomi. I've watched her channel on and off for a very long time, and she mentioned this phrase, internal landscape. She mentioned it, I believe, in the context of taking care of your internal landscape, and I really resonated with that metaphor. Again, I love metaphors, which goes against many of my diagnoses, but let's not stray away from the topic. I really found it to be a really beautiful way to describe oneself without rigidness. If you're describing your inner workings or interests or anything about yourself as your internal landscape, or taking care of your internal landscape, it removes this pressure of having to love oneself, of having to, of course it's beautiful to love oneself, but I feel like that is quite a bit harder than taking care of internal landscapes. And I feel like it removes this pressure, and then it also it's an easier gateway into becoming an observer of things rather than attaching one's identity to concepts and interests, which I find to be helpful, especially with things like anxiety or personality crises. So yeah, I find it to be a good context to take care of oneself and make it from a point of curiosity and observation, kind of like a weather in a landscape. I'm looking now at the mountains in front of me, and there's a fog. It's really foggy. The drive here was super foggy, and the fog is setting down, and yeah, it's just really beautiful. That would conclude our list for today. I'm really glad I did this, and our waterfall is still hanging on there. I'm really glad I did this, and I'm happy that you're watching and I can share it with you, and I hope you can find moments of calm and inspiration during your summer, during this month. And I wish you could smell this perfume. Thank you for watching.